In 2011, swimmers in Bolivia were pulled from lakes bleeding, their limbs shredded by unseen jaws. That same year, Brazilian researchers dropped a juvenile crocodile into a piranha-infested tank, and what happened next had them pulling the plug in under 5 minutes. Since then, scientists and military labs have quietly staged predator battles that stretch biology to the edge. And now, the real question is this. When a full-grown Nile crocodile enters piranha waters, who actually walks out alive? Keep watching to find out. Why this experiment? So who in their right mind fills an entire lake with razor-jawed piranhas and then tosses in a single crocodile to see what happens? Well, turns out it's not a horror movie plot, it's science, and not the safe behind a microscope kind. We're talking real, muddy boot, don't blink or you'll lose a hand kind of science. It all starts with a problem that's more common than you'd think.
Please just help me! Help me! Kyle, please!
Out-of-control invasive species, specifically piranhas. In places like Argentina and Bolivia, lakes that were once peaceful fishing spots slowly turned into no-go zones. Why? Because someone, somewhere, dumped piranhas into non-native ecosystems and walked away.
It's not one of the real monsters. In fact, it's quite average size.
Fast forward a few years, and now you've got entire lakes where locals can't swim, native fish are extinct, and the fishing economy is dead in the water. By 2011, reports were surfacing from across South America. Swimmers with deep bite wounds, entire fish stocks wiped out, and no one could figure out how to reverse it until someone said, "What if we fight biology with biology?" Enter the crocodile. But don't get it twisted, this wasn't some Jurassic Park stunt. Researchers actually began testing predator-prey dynamics as a way to regain control. They needed to see if apex predators could naturally suppress invasive prey populations. Similar strategies had already been tried elsewhere. Sharks were introduced to control lionfish in the Atlantic, and specially trained dogs were used to locate Burmese pythons in Florida's Everglades.
These detector dogs have been carefully trained to search for pythons using scent signals.
But here's where things get wild. Some military divisions, allegedly, took an interest. Not just for ecological reasons, but for survival training. According to whispers out of Brazil's Naval Academy in the early 2000s, simulations were run using biome-predator matchups, think flooded jungle ops, robot deployment in hostile terrain, and observing how autonomous units respond to chaotic predator behavior. Crocodiles and piranhas weren't just part of an ecosystem, they became moving variables in warfare planning.
Piranha are very nervous fish. We were actually involved in a study recently which was looking at the reasons for shoaling behavior in piranha.
Still, even if you're skeptical of the defense angle, the entertainment industry was already diving in. Channels like Discovery and National Geographic began staging virtual battle scenarios between the two animals. One segment used motion tracking and AI simulations to determine who'd win in a clash, the crocodile or the swarm. Spoiler alert, it wasn't so one-sided. And yeah, this might all sound theoretical, but don't sleep on the real-world experiments. In Brazil's Manaus Institute, researchers once introduced a juvenile caiman, a close cousin of the crocodile, into a massive tank filled with red-bellied piranhas.
We want to explore this idea further. The concept is to raise caiman on a farm to actually help their population in the wild.
The goal, measure stress. That's it. No blood, no bait, just pressure. What happened? Within minutes, the caiman was thrashing in panic, scrambling to climb onto the tank's only dry rock, tail whipping like it had set off a fire alarm. The piranhas didn't even attack. They didn't need to. Psychological dominance was enough. And just when you think the crocodile's walking into a slaughter, that's where the second part of this story flips everything upside down. Because now, it's time to talk about the crocodile's actual advantage. The crocodile's advantage. On the surface, this looks like a suicide mission. One crocodile, hundreds of bloodthirsty piranhas. Sounds like a fish buffet with croc meat on the menu, right? Not quite, because this is an apex predator that hasn't needed an upgrade in over 200 million years.
Saltwater crocodiles are among the most aggressive type of crocodiles in the world.
That's not evolution stalling. That's evolution saying, you nailed it the first time. Let's start with the crocodile's skin. This thing isn't just tough, it's armor-plated, literally. Underneath those scales are osteoderms, bony plates that act like built-in body armor. So when piranhas come swarming in with their razor-like teeth, they're basically chewing on medieval chainmail. Sure, they'll get in a few nips, but deep tissue damage? Not likely, unless they hit a soft spot. Now combine that armor with bite force. The crocodile has the strongest bite in the animal kingdom, over 3,700 pounds per square inch.
A single croc can take some time to overpower its victim.
To put that in perspective, that's like a pickup truck pressing down on your forearm. If that jaw snaps down on even a group of piranhas, it's over in one crunch, gone. But it gets better. Crocodiles are famous for something called the death roll. That's when they grab their prey, twist violently in water, and rip it apart. Against a swarm, that spin turns into a shockwave.
But aggression can spill over.
Sending fish flying, churning up silt, and breaking line formations. In a tight space, that could scatter the frenzy long enough for the croc to regroup or escape. And then there's stealth. While piranhas are built for speed, crocodiles are masters of stillness. They can hold their breath for over an hour. That means no bubbles, no ripples, no heartbeat anyone can sense. In military terms, that's next-level cloaking. The crocodile doesn't waste energy. It waits for the perfect moment to strike. Meanwhile, the fish are burning fuel, jittering, reacting. Here's another wild advantage: immunity. Crocodile blood contains antimicrobial peptides, meaning they can swim in filthy water with open wounds and not die from infection. Scientists have studied this for years, hoping to apply it to human antibiotics. So even if the piranhas get a few hits in, odds are it won't lead to anything lethal. And then there's one of the most underrated weapons: the tail. That muscular tail isn't just for swimming, it's a club, a whip, a battering ram. In some studies, crocodiles have used tail strikes to knock out birds mid-flight and stun large prey underwater. Now picture that weapon swinging full force into a swarm of fish. You're not dealing with a passive tank, you're dealing with a mobile wrecking ball.
Crocodiles are cooperative feeders. They work together.
Some crocodiles even show what's called back-rolling counterattacks. It's a defensive spin that kicks up mud and debris, creating a temporary underwater smokescreen. That chaos confuses predators, breaks line of sight, and lets the croc reposition. Against piranhas, who rely on coordination and vision. That disorientation might be the difference between survival and becoming fish chow. But the most overlooked edge? Territorial instinct. Crocodiles aren't just physically dominant, they're psychologically dominant predators.
They're a deadly predator, but until now, saltwater crocodiles have been considered a relatively quiet threat.
In past studies, piranhas have been known to retreat or disperse when facing large, unfamiliar predators that behave unpredictably. If the crocodile displays assertive behavior early, tail whipping, open-mouthed lunges, or even just remaining unmoved during a nibble attack, the piranhas may back off, especially if not already in a blood frenzy. Of course, not every croc's walking in with God mode stats. A full-grown Nile or saltwater crocodile, definitely a contender. But a juvenile or small caiman, that's where things can get dicey real fast. Still, don't count the croc out. This animal wasn't built for fair fights. It was built to survive anything. But if that's true, then why are piranhas still feared in every river they call home? The piranha's fury. Now let's flip the script. Because if you think the crocodile is the only one with weapons, think again. The piranha isn't just some small fish with a bad reputation. It's one of the most feared swarm predators in the animal kingdom, and it's earned that title. Let's start with how they attack. It's not chaos, it's coordination. Red-bellied piranhas, Pygocentris natareri, are known for pack intelligence.
And the reason for that is that other piranhas will actually come in and take big chunks out of the fins.
That means one bite signals the rest, like a switch getting flipped. And once that first drop of blood hits the water, it's game on. They don't even need to be starving. Just one trigger: stress, movement, even sound. And the frenzy begins. Now about that bite. On paper, 70 pounds per square inch doesn't sound like much, especially compared to a crocodile. But that's not the point. It's precision. Piranha teeth are razor-sharp, triangular, and interlocked like a natural chainsaw. Some Amazonian tribes even use their jaws as scissors. Not the fish, just the jaws. One bite can slice through muscle. 100? That's a blender. And that's not an exaggeration. There are documented cases of large mammals, cows, deer, even capybaras, being stripped to the bone in under 60 seconds after getting caught in the wrong part of a river. And then there's their speed. These things can move up to 20 miles per hour in short bursts. That's faster than most Olympic swimmers, but in water and in formation. Scientists from the University of St. Andrews studied their swarming behavior using robotic prey, and what they found was straight up terrifying. The piranhas targeted weak points: eyes, gills, joints. Not random, not lucky, intentional.
Overhanging the water's edge, provide welcome food for shoals of hungry fish.
Even the armored crocodile has soft spots, and piranhas know how to find them. Worse, piranhas go into hierarchical feeding mode. That means the alphas go for the high-value cuts, usually the softest or bloodiest areas, while the rest wait. But if that crocodile so much as twitches the wrong way and sends the group into a panic,
Surrounded by saltwater crocodiles is not for the faint-hearted.
the whole system collapses into total chaos. No rules, just teeth. There's actual footage out there. In 2017, a tourist boat in Brazil's Tocantins River caught a moment that looked straight out of a horror movie. An injured capybara, bleeding from a small wound, wandered into piranha territory. Within 35 seconds, the water turned red. Screams from the boat, splashes, then nothing. By the time the camera zoomed in, there were just floating ribs and silence. And don't think the croc is safe just because it's bigger. If it starts bleeding, especially underwater, it's like ringing the dinner bell in every direction. Piranhas don't hesitate. They don't size up their prey. They sense blood, feel the vibrations, and commit. Plus, they don't need to win. They just need to overwhelm.
Charlie decides to try and see just how aggressive the piranhas are.
And if the crocodile makes one bad move, rolls too late, panics, exposes its throat, or gets caught on underwater terrain, it could be done in minutes. So now we've got two predators. One with bone armor and bite force like a sledgehammer. The other, a coordinated school of scalpels with speed, blood sense, and sheer numbers on its side. And now we ask the big question. What happens when these two actually collide? The clash. What would happen? So, now that we've seen both sides of this cold-blooded standoff, armor-plated crocodile versus razor-jawed swarm, let's drop them in the same lake and hit play. What really happens when they meet? First, let's go with the best-case scenario for the crocodile. We're talking about a full-grown saltwater or Nile crocodile, weighing over 1,000 pounds, dropped into a mid-sized controlled lake.
Researchers hope the findings could be used to detect and locate problem crocodiles.
If the water's deep and murky, the croc immediately has the upper hand. Its sheer mass creates natural distance. Every slow movement pushes pressure waves through the water, warning the swarm before contact is even made. And if things do escalate, that tail isn't just for show. One swing could kill a dozen piranhas in a blink. Add in the death roll, and suddenly the water is a churning blender of mud, teeth, and debris. In this environment, the crocodile's advantage isn't just size, it's control. It can escape to land if needed. It can dive deep or ambush from below. It has options. But here's the catch. The first injury changes everything. Let's say the crocodile takes a minor wound, maybe a bite to the eye, or a scrape along its leg. Just a trickle of blood. That one moment becomes the start of a chain reaction. The scent hits the water. The piranhas get that chemical signal, and suddenly the calm is gone. The crocodile is now a target. This is where size and location decide everything. If it's a smaller croc, say an 80-pound juvenile, it doesn't have the same resistance or energy reserves. Its skin is thinner, its bones are softer, and its panic response is higher. A few coordinated piranha attacks to the joints or underbelly could lead to real damage. One dislocated limb, one eye gone, and it's a feeding frenzy. In real-world simulations done at São Paulo University, researchers ran over 50 predator-prey behavior models using AI and anatomical data. The outcome? In 7 out of 10 simulations, a full-grown crocodile survived, often by retreating, striking first, or holding still long enough for the piranhas to lose interest. But in the other 3 cases, mostly involving smaller crocodiles or injuries sustained early in the encounter, the piranhas won. Not by skill, by exhaustion. The crocodile couldn't fight back fast enough. It was death by 1,000 bites.
If you were attacked by hundreds of them, you could die, and it'd be a very, very painful death.
But here's a twist. There's also a third outcome, the draw. Believe it or not, in some controlled lake enclosures, crocodiles and piranhas have been observed coexisting. No aggression, no fighting, just mutual respect. In these scenarios, the crocodile barely moved, floating still, not reacting to bites, and that behavior made the piranhas back off. Why? Because without blood, without movement, there's no trigger. The croc didn't challenge them. The fish didn't feel threatened. It was a biological standoff where no one pulled the first move.
Look at those teeth. Look at those teeth. I'm being extremely careful here.
And get this, some crocodiles even develop learned strategies. Biologists have documented crocs in piranha-heavy areas that do splash intimidation. Basically, they slap the water loudly before moving through it. That one sound scatters fish long enough to pass through safely, almost like muscle memory built for survival. Also, environmental factors matter. If the lake has vegetation, roots, or rocky structures, the crocodile can use it for cover. Piranhas avoid tangles. They want visibility and open strikes. Take that away, the swarm loses coordination. So in the end, what really determines the winner? It's context. Size, blood, terrain, behavior. All it takes is one trigger for chaos, or one cold-blooded stare to keep things still. But there's one final piece to this story, the lesson. Because beyond the blood, the bites, and the simulations, there's a much bigger message hiding under the surface. The real lesson. So yeah, the idea of a crocodile dropped into a lake full of piranhas sounds like something pulled straight out of a monster survival game, but peel back the sharp teeth and chaos, and you'll find something deeper.
Let's get some idea of how much it bites. If I put the blade in its mouth.
Oh my God.
Because this whole experiment, it's not really about who wins, it's about what the clash reveals. See, predator-prey simulations like this one aren't about entertainment, they're about control, and what happens when we try to force it. Nature builds balance over tens of thousands of years. Every claw, every fin, every instinct develops in relation to everything else around it. But when humans step in and try to rewrite those rules, fast-track the food chain, we start playing with fire. Let's rewind to Australia in the 1930s. Farmers were losing crops to beetles, so the government introduced cane toads, thinking they'd eat the pests.
You could see the flea beetle killed a whole bunch of them, and then the ones that...
Instead, the toads bred like wildfire, poisoned everything in their path, and became a full-blown ecological disaster. That's the kind of story you hear once, and should never forget. Same logic applies here. You toss a crocodile into a piranha-infested lake? Maybe it helps. Maybe it backfires. What if it kills not just the piranhas, but other species too? What if it becomes the new apex terror in an environment not built to support it?
And some of the sharpest teeth on Earth. It truly is one of the most fearsome hunters of the flooded forest.
Now you've solved one problem by creating 5 more. That's why modern ecologists approach this stuff with caution and a whole lot of simulations. Today, before a single animal is introduced anywhere, it's modeled. Researchers test how introducing a predator affects every layer of the food chain, not just the one causing the trouble. Because in nature, there's no such thing as a clean swap. There's also a darker angle here. Back in the early 20th century, predator testing wasn't always about science. In private zoos and sketchy labs, animals were thrown into staged fights just to see what happened. Lions versus bears, wolves versus hyenas. It wasn't research, it was blood sport. Thankfully, that era's dying out. Today's scientists focus on non-lethal observation. We're talking stress readings, behavior monitoring, even animatronic animals used as stand-ins for conflict testing. Because yes, nature is brutal, but we don't have to be. And yet, these simulations still show us something uncomfortable. There's no perfect predator.
First, a small scout darts in to take a bite and checks how the prey reacts.
Every animal, no matter how dangerous, has a breaking point. The crocodile has the armor, but the piranhas have the numbers. The piranhas have precision, but the crocodile has calm. Every strength has a weakness. That's the balance and the warning. Because right now, the world is facing a flood of invasive species. Climate shifts, global shipping, illegal pet trades. Lionfish are gutting coral reefs. Burmese pythons are swallowing whole ecosystems in Florida. Feral cats are wiping out bird populations across Australia. And everyone's asking, how do we fix this? Predator-prey experiments like this might be part of the answer, but only if they're done right. And here's the wildest twist of all. Sometimes, predators avoid conflict altogether. Crocodiles have been seen backing off when outnumbered. Piranhas have passed up on obvious prey when food was abundant or when something felt off. These aren't machines. They're survivors. And survivors adapt. So what's the final takeaway? When you throw a crocodile into a lake full of piranhas, you're not just watching a fight. You're watching evolution unfold in real time. And if there's one thing we learn from that, it's that nature doesn't care about our rules. It never has. It just keeps asking the same brutal question. Can you adapt before you get eaten? So now the question's yours. Should we be controlling nature like this? Can brute strength really outlast the fury of a swarm? And if pushed to the edge, which predator truly dominates? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're watching them all. And if this blew your mind even a little, hit subscribe, because what's coming next might just make this look like a warm-up.